Welcome back, fight fans. We're back. Gonna open up, of course, with UFC Vegas 59. That was last week. Thiago Santos, Jamal Hill. And then this week, the Contender Series, week 3, headlined, of course, by Bo Nickal. And then this week, which is UFC San Diego, which is Chito Vera and Dominic Cruz. So let's get it going. Just like last time, we're gonna stick to kind of, shorten the prelim talk a little bit, and then talk about more about the ones that we were talking about last one, and of course do the regular thing with the other ones. So the first prelim, I mean, there is something I definitely need to say about this one. It was Mayra Bueno Silva, Stephanie Egger. That ended with maybe a submission by Mayra Bueno Silva. And I only say that because it was a weird start to the night. That was where Bueno Silva had the arm bar in, seemed pretty deep, and then actually really only held it for a couple seconds and then let it go. Said that Egger had tapped. We didn't see a tap. It wasn't on any of the camera angles. Nobody saw it happen. The ref didn't see it happen. So it was a little weird, but I mean, I had never seen that before. But then apparently what you're supposed to do after that is if the ref doesn't see it, but stops the fight, I mean, you stop the fight. So you can't keep going. So what happens is it's either, I believe it ends up being possibly a no contest, or of course a win for Silva. So what ended up happening then, of course, is the ref ended up polling the judges. If you didn't see it, I should say. The ref ended up polling the judges. The judges didn't see it happen except for one of them. One of the judges claims that he saw it pretty clearly. And then also apparently Herb Dean said he saw it, which is a complete lie, actually. He definitely did not see it. I mean, it seems like this video is pretty legit. I mean, it looked pretty legit to me. Somebody had posted a video on Twitter, and literally while the tap was happening, Herb Dean was actually doing a video for I can't remember the app, but it's the app where you can tell somebody, you pay somebody like $10 to make a video for you. I can't remember what it's called now, but he was doing a video on there, and you could actually see it because he pointed the video. You could see him looking at the cage while it was happening. So you could see it was actually those two fighters fighting, and he was doing the video while it was happening. And the fight was done in the video. Like, you could actually see it. So it was kind of like, well, there's no way that he could have seen that. Not to mention he was sitting, it looked like about 20, 30 feet away. So, I mean, if you couldn't see it on any of the cameras, there's no way that he saw it. So I don't know. I think that's a little bit garbage, but you know what? The way they explained it after, and especially from, a psychology point of view, I mean, it does make sense. I mean, I think Egger pretty clearly tapped. There's just no real evidence to support that whatsoever. I mean, it's really just the only evidence would be that, the ref kept asking Egger, and like they asked, other people asked her too if she had tapped. She didn't really say no. Like, she didn't fight the fact that it was being stopped. She never said that she didn't tap. She was just kind of seeing how it was playing out. That's what it looked like. And I mean, she didn't fight it at all. So I mean, you kind of got to think, well, she probably did tap, even though there was literally no evidence for it whatsoever. The fact that she's not arguing it and, saying anything about it, that to me kind of tells you right away she probably did tap. But yeah, strange start to the night there. Then we had Cory McKenna and Miranda Granger. Wasn't really going to talk about it, but I gotta say, I am a huge Cory McKenna fan. I love her so much. But she, not only that, but she actually got a submission win in the second round. And not only that, She is the only female to get a Von Flue choke in the UFC. Amazing. And I mean, dominant win all around. She's still the youngest woman on the roster and also the person with the shortest reach in the entire roster, men and women. So I mean, that's crazy. And to dominantly win like that, that's so impressive. So impressive. I could not be more impressed with McKenna on that one. Amazing job. Amazing job. One that I did talk about last time, though, that would be Takashi Sato and Bryan Battle. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I said this last time. I thought it was gonna be pretty close, and I thought it was gonna go to a decision for sure. I mean, I was saying last time Sato had fought Bilal and Baeza, and he lasted quite a while with them. So, I mean, those are two tough guys. So I just thought Sato would last. I thought they both would last the entire fight. Plus, I mean, obviously, I didn't get the chance to say this last time because, I mean, this was only obvious on the Friday, but he really did not look good at those weigh-ins on the Friday. So I was a little worried, not worried enough to change my pick, but I was definitely a little more concerned there. But I mean, looks clearly didn't mean anything on that. He came in and got a head kick knockout. I don't even know how fast it was. I didn't write it, but I think it was less than a minute for sure. And I mean, I don't even need to describe the fight. That's literally the only thing that happened. They weren't even really striking much at all. They were kind of just moving around, feeling each other out. And then he threw the head kick, landed clean, and that was it. So yeah, really impressive win for Bryan Battle there. Yeah, I did not see that one coming that fast. And I really didn't think he was going to be able to knock him out at all. But you know what? Middleweight coming down to welterweight like that. I mean, he had decent power up there. So, if he can really rein in that weight, because it did look pretty rough. And I think he even kind of mentioned that it wasn't really that smooth. So, I mean, if he can get that going, there's no stopping Bryan Battle, man. Oh, man. Especially at welterweight. There's not a lot of extremely talented welterweights out there right now. So, yeah, Bryan Battle, he's the real deal for sure, folks. After that, we had Michał Oleksiejczuk, Sam Alvey. I mean, I said this last week. I mean, it's basically a guaranteed first round knockout. So like, I mean, I don't think we did talk about him too much, but I think I did mention this one just because of that specifically. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? I mean, it was just complete dominance as we all kind of expected to happen. Yeah, first round knockout, nothing, no problem there whatsoever. Lots of finish. I mean, obviously lots of finishes. There were 10 out of 10 finishes. None of the fights went the distance. But then we got to the main card. Main card already, only for the fifth fight in, and we're already at the main card. Terrance McKinney, Eric Gonzalez. Again, there was literally no surprise there, except for the fact I was actually impressed that Gonzalez lasted that long. I mean, he got hit pretty hard, pretty early there. And I mean, he actually hit McKinney back with one, I will say, one really, really good shot there where it was like, oh, okay. I mean, he wasn't going to get stopped by that, obviously, but still, it was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, McKinney turned to his wrestling, which, I mean, if you haven't been paying attention, I mean, I get why, the knockout power is obviously the number one story there, but I mean, he's also an incredible wrestler, which he showed against Fares Ziam in I think that was the second UFC fight, the one before Dober. So, I mean, he's the real deal everywhere. Like, he can finish anybody anywhere. And you got to remember that. It's not just the punching. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't really all that surprised when he got the submission. I mean, yeah, I was kind of expecting him to get a huge knockout within like 30 seconds, but hey, I mean, the submission win also made a lot of sense. But the future for him, he actually made a point of calling out Paddy the Baddy. And I mean, as a fan, I think as a fan of MMA in general, I think everybody would want to see that. But that being said, I just don't see that happening. The UFC just, they're not the kind of, they're the kind of promotion that does promote a lot of huge fights, but not when the people aren't ranked. So what I think is they're going to be working up to is you're going to see McKinney get up into the rankings, like 13, 14, and Paddy get into the rankings 15, 12, 13, somewhere around there too, both near the bottom. And then we'll kind of start to see something like that go ahead because, they're both too big. They're both too big of a star to basically destroy one of their careers like that. Because really, one of them is going to get horribly exposed, and I'm pretty sure I know who. So I just don't think the UFC is willing to do that yet. So I just don't see that that's happening. Especially with Paddy. I really think that Paddy's going to get one more easier kind of fight. Maybe slip into that 15th spot, and then they'll give McKinney also another kind of one like that, or they'll just throw him into the top 15 against somebody, because honestly, he could easily beat a lot of the people in the top 15, to be honest. I think if you're really paying attention, I think that's pretty clear too, especially since he almost finished Drew Dober. So nobody's been able to do that. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Anyway, instead, yeah, like I said, instead of Paddy the Baddy, I think they're going to be giving him somebody near the bottom of the top 15. That would make a lot of sense. After that, it was Augusto Sakai, Sergey Spivak. I thought it was going to be a lot more one-sided, to be honest. Yeah, because Sakai, I even mentioned it last time. We haven't even really seen him throw a punch in the last two fights. So I thought this was going to be a little bit more one-sided, but it was still pretty one-sided. Spivak just didn't really go for a finish in the first round. That's really all that happened. So yeah, just dominant win. We'll go into the description this time because it was a little bit longer at least, so we could talk about it. It did go into the second round, so we could talk about it. Instead of trying to land some bombs, which makes sense at heavyweight, Spivak did go for those huge takedowns instead, and that does follow with his style. But I wasn't sure if he would do that against somebody like Sakai, who I believe, if I remember correctly, is pretty good on the ground. So, he didn't necessarily look like it this time because he was dominated, but still, I think anyway, he used to be known for his jiu-jitsu, I think. I can't remember specifically though, but he is from Brazil, so it's not a long shot. Anyway, instead though, like I said, Spivak did go for that takedown, dragged Sakai down early, and he locked in some pretty deep submissions, but it was the ground and pound. The ground and pound was obviously the biggest concern. If you watch it, it was pretty huge. Sakai kept making his way back up to his feet, but Spivak refused to let go, dragged him back down again, threatened those finishes. Spivak closed around with a pretty huge shot, couldn't quite grab the finish, but obviously a dominant round for him. And then Spivak opened the second with a crisp combo, wobbled Sakai again, and then with what he did in the first round, did the same thing, dragged him back down. Sakai did get up again, but was dragged down again and started to get hit with that ground and pound that we were talking about before, getting slammed by that for, basically 2 minutes straight. They really probably could have ended that a little bit earlier. And the ref jumped in after a while to stop it there. TKO in the second round for Sergey Spivak, who looked very, very good. Yeah, and Sakai's been struggling recently, but it's still in the top 15, so that's still a pretty impressive win like that. Then we had the flyweight finale for The Ultimate Fighter Season 30. Juliana Miller, Brogan Walker. And what did I tell you last week? I specifically said Miller was gonna get that finish. And I mean, not only did she get that finish, she could have gotten it. I mean, she could have gotten it in a couple of different rounds there, but she ended up getting it in the third, dominated Walker the entire time, like I kind of said she would. I mean, I really did think that Walker was going to do a little bit more on the feet. But I mean, I said right away last time, I was saying it the whole time. I even said I was going to bet on her winning by submission. So, I mean, she did get the TKO on the ground. By the way, I still made a huge profit because if you would have listened to me and if you would have bet on a finish, whether that was, I bet on both because I just like to do that. So I put money on a second and third round sub and TKO. And it ended up being that I cashed in on the one that was plus 1,500. So yeah, like we definitely made a decent chunk of change with that one. So I hope people out there listen to me on that one, because that was, I thought it was pretty clear going into it that she was going to get a finish, and I was actually surprised when I was watching it that she didn't get it a little bit earlier, because I mean that was not a close fight. But yeah, let's get into it. Walker was the one pushing forward early, but Miller did land first, landed that huge counter that stumbled Walker, which, again, that's what she was doing in all of the other fights. So that really shouldn't, I just don't know why she wasn't a much bigger favorite. But anyway, from there, as expected, Miller dragged her down to the ground, worked hard for these submissions. I mean, she doesn't go to just win a decision. She wants to get these submissions mostly. I mean, but ground and pound as well, but mostly the submissions. Walker was doing a great job of holding on to Miller, so not really doing a whole lot of anything, literally just holding her there so she couldn't do anything. That's essentially all she was doing. But yeah, was getting dominated, and that really was how it went for 4 minutes straight. A lot of holding from Walker, not even trying to get up because she probably knew that she couldn't, and if she did, she was going to get submitted. That's basically what was going to happen. So she knew that and just held on because, yeah, that's all she really could do at that point. A little bit slower to start the second round, but again, Miller was the one that landed the heavier shots, busted up Walker's eye, actually. And then, for some reason, Walker pushed Miller into the fence. I don't know why, because then she got taken down immediately. Dragged her down, ended up on top, of course, and then Miller really started to go hard on those submissions again, really threatening the finish. And like I said, I really thought, especially in the second round, that she was going to be getting that finish, which, by the way, that would have been even better because my pick on Tapology was second round submission. So I was really hoping she was going to lock that in there, and she was so close, but not quite. Anyway, just as it looked like Miller was going to grab the submission win there, it looked like she had it. She really did look like she had it. But then she let it go, and actually Walker ended up back on her feet after that. But that did not stop Miller's control. She pinned Walker along the fence again and then took her down once again from there. And another dominant round for Miller, of course, 2-0. And then the third round, Walker actually finally landed a couple of combos on the feet there, but still really struggling with the length of Miller, because it's not even just the counter skill and the aggression and all of that, and obviously the grappling. It's also that she's kind of tall. Like she's kind of tall for the division, so that helps her even more too. And yeah, really struggling with that. And once again, it was Walker who moved the fight to the fence. I don't know why, but she did it again. And then Miller reversed her and dragged her down for the third round in a row. And then just a lot of ground and pound, really going hard for a finish, trying to get the finish that she wanted. Didn't get the submission, but she did get that ground and pound, lots of elbows. It took quite a while. The ref gave her a chance for sure, giving Miller the dominant finish there and the new tough 30 flyweight champion. Amazing. Juliana Miller, 3rd round TKO. I mean, yeah, I really don't think I could have been more impressed there, other than if maybe she got that finish in the 2nd round. But I mean, I just don't understand. Like, if people would keep saying, "Oh, this season wasn't very good," and it's like, I don't know, like maybe they're not the most interesting group of people. Actually, I think Miller is pretty interesting now. Um, if especially if you look at her Instagram, very interesting person, but and entertaining. I like her a lot, but um, it's like maybe it wasn't the greatest season, but you know what? I mean, Miller, like, there's not a whole lot of flyweights that can do stuff like that. Like, that's pretty impressive. She's only 3 fights in now. I mean, technically, 5, I guess, because of the Ultimate Fighter. But yeah, all that grappling experience, and I think she's actually younger than me, which is kind of insane. I, I think she's I think she's like maybe 23 or 24. I'm 26, 25, 26. I don't know. Anyway, she's pretty similar anyway. So that's crazy that she's that young doing stuff that impressive, like that dominantly over somebody that's fought in Invicta a few times. She fought, like I said last time, Pearl Gonzalez, Walker, I should say, fought Pearl Gonzalez, I think Miranda Maverick, and then Montana, I think Montana De La Rosa. Like those are pretty experienced people, and 2 of those people are in the UFC right now. And Miller just dominated her, like more so than Pearl and well, actually, I didn't see the other 2 fights, but I saw the Pearl fight, and Pearl was doing, pretty well against her, obviously, because of the grappling. But I mean, nothing like what Miller just did. I mean, this was amazing, amazing. So I really couldn't be much more impressed by Miller here. I mean, huge, huge future ahead for sure. And I will definitely be a huge fan and watching and supporting. That is for sure. Then after that, we had the heavyweight finale, Zach Pauga, Mohammed Usman. And like most people, I definitely had Pauga on this. And I stand by the pick. I really do. I mean, I'm always open and honest about my picks and how I feel about them. This one, I mean, he dominated the first round. Pauga easily won that first round. I don't think it was really even that close. And then Usman basically landed one punch, and that was it. And he won. Like that was it. And I mean, fair. It's not like I'm shitting all over him, but I mean, seriously, it's like, I just don't think somebody like that can do well in the heavyweight division now. There's no way. Like, yeah, like I just don't think I'll be picking him anytime soon for any of the fights, unless he gets somebody that's brand new, or he's fighting somebody off somebody off the Contender Series or something. But there's not really a whole lot of people on the roster that I think he could beat like that, because Pauga was, he was definitely having his way with him, and we'll go into that. Both of them were actually throwing some fairly heavy combos, but I mean, after a head kick from Pauga, Usman slowed down. Slowed him down by grabbing his leg, pushing him into the fence. And Usman seemed to have the heavier shots, which makes sense because he's more of a true heavyweight, whereas Pauga, not so much. He's more of a light heavyweight. But Pauga was too fast and avoided really the vast majority of these strikes. I mean, he wasn't really, like I said, he wasn't really landing much of anything. I was definitely not that impressed. And then using the speed, Pauga stayed at a distance, started to pick him apart with these counters and jabs. Nobody landed anything crazy. Like, it definitely wasn't the most interesting fight, which is exactly what Dana White said yesterday too, actually. He wasn't really enjoying it either, but I mean, I thought it was maybe a little bit better than that. He was shitting on it maybe a little bit too hard, but anyway, still pretty clear round for Pauga there. Thanks to all that output, because he definitely had a lot more output than Usman, and Usman really, like I said, just wasn't really landing anything. I don't know. I just wasn't really all that impressed. Then the second, which is exactly why, like I said, I still stand by picking Pauga. I really do. And if they had a rematch and if they fought again like 2 months from now, I would still pick Pauga. I really would. I mean, maybe not 2 months from now, but like 6 months from now, if they somehow did a rematch, I'm still picking Pauga. That's honestly how I still feel about that. But yeah, I mean, the second round opened. Pauga left himself a little bit open, and Usman got him with a single punch, and that was it. That was it. KO win, second round for Usman. I don't know what to say. Like I said, I don't hate him. I like him as a person, but it's just I still have not seen anything that's even remotely telling me that he's gonna do anything in the UFC at all. And I hate to say that, I really do. Because again, I don't want to shit all over these people's careers and all that, but it's like, he's just not showing a whole lot yet. Does he have the potential? Sure he does. But I'm just not seeing it yet. I'm really not impressed. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But I'm telling you, I probably won't be picking him all that often. That's for sure. Co-main event: Vicente Luque, Geoff Neal. I picked Luque by finish because I thought he was going to be using that grappling more, and because he's got quite a few submissions on his record. And I saw him. I mean, he wasn't insane at grappling, but he had the submissions. So I figured, okay, I'll go with Luque on that one. And you know what? This actually was a pick that I got to say I regret. I actually do. Because even when I was watching the tape, and I even said this last time, I said how close it was because I knew that Neal was really, really good on the feet. And I knew that Luque wasn't as good as people thought. So, like I said, I knew it was going to be really close. But yeah, I should have gone with what I was kind of thinking in the back of my head and going with Neal. That's what I should have done. What can I say? I'm not perfect, obviously. I can't get it. I've never gotten a perfect UFC card, but I'm usually, of course, like 1, 2, or 3 away, somewhere around there, usually. So yeah, this is one of those times where I think it was just the name, the hype, and all of that actually did get me. And I'm getting a lot better at, it doesn't happen very often that fools me, but in this case, I gotta say, I think that's what happened here because like I said, I even saw it in the tape how good Neal was at striking, and I even saw how Luque was struggling to defend. Actually, the stand up of Bilal, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Bilal. So yeah, I guess I kind of did see that one coming. So I do regret that pick. I really, really do. But anyway, both of them took it slow to start, only throwing the quick combo here and there. But Luque seemed to be landing the more significant strikes early, but Neal was by far the more accurate person. And then things really started to heat up as Neal stumbled Luque with a beautiful combo. I mean, he is such a technical striker. He looked like he was in trouble, but Luque recovered as he almost always does, I should say, because now he's knocked out for the first time. And started to land his own combos again. And as the round continued, though, Neal got that momentum back and really started to light Luque up. Knocked him down multiple times. Luque was still alive by the end of the round, but I mean, clear round for Neal. And personally, I might have even gone with a 10-8 on that one. I think one of the judges gave a 10-8 there, and I think that was pretty fair. I mean, it was pretty rough. Clearly still rocked from that first round. I mean, who wouldn't be at that point? Luque didn't have a whole lot of output. I need to find a better spot. Here we go. Didn't have a whole lot of output in the second round. Unfortunately for Neal, he also slowed down a bit, which actually led to Luque getting some offense going, which is interesting because Neal apparently does that regularly, always takes the second round slow. So, I mean, he's lucky his corner did start to really push him there with the pace, or else he's right. Like the corner and him were right. Like Luque would have started to gain momentum, and it might have been different at that point. It really might have been. Neal, interestingly, Neal actually dragged Luque to the ground. Luque got up quick, but started to get peppered along the fence. It was a much closer round, but I thought Neal was up 2-0 going into the third. And actually, I mean, I guess that would have been 20-17 at that point on my card because I had it 10-8 the first round. And then the final round, Neal just kept going with that output, landed these massive combos. And from there, Luque, he had Luque against the fence and just let it all go. I mean, I think that was where he had all the uppercuts. I think that was him. He had like, I don't know how many uppercuts in a row, grabbing obviously the biggest knockout of his career. First time Luque has ever been knocked out. So very, very impressive win for Neal. Like I said, I should have seen that one coming. I should have put the money on Neal. I regret that one. I really, really do, because I did see that one coming. But yeah, what's next though? What is next? Luque, I mean, he was ranked 6th before this fight, so I mean that means Neal is going to be, you know, on the edge of the top 5. And if you want to make an exciting brawl like this last one, I actually think this is the perfect fight for Wonder Boy. I really, really do. Let's get Wonder Boy back in there. I mean, you know, we've been seeing Wonder Boy against these grapplers. Nobody wants to see that. We know Wonder Boy is going to lose against a grappler. Like, I hate to say it, I love Wonder Boy. How can you not love Wonder Boy? But you know, it's just not. Why would you set him up against a grappler now? You know, like we've seen that 3 times in a row, gotten just dominated every single time. So let's not do that. Let's give him Neal. It's tough for both of them because they're both very, very technical strikers. So I mean, I think that would be the best matchup, and it gives the fans something interesting too with Neal, because I think he kind of needs to build something. Like, I get what he's doing, and he's even said it. You know, he lets his fighting do the talking for him. But you know what? You're not gonna really do well in a promotion like this if you don't have the hype behind you. If you don't have a name behind you, your hype, your any kind of personality, like nothing, no social media, nothing. You know, you've got to be insanely good, and you've got to be perfect. Because that's basically, you know, like that's kind of something that Islam is doing. That's what Khabib did. Like they don't do antics in social media. They just perform well. That's all they do. And I mean, you know, like it's hard to make a career doing that unless you're absolutely sensationally perfect, basically. And I mean, Neal is good, but he's definitely not like that. So, you know, if we get him in there with Wonder Boy, at least that gives him some kind of reason for the casuals to watch the fight. I mean, you know, because it's all about that. That's what it's, because also you're never going to get on the main card, or like you're never going to get on these huge cards if you don't have that name. You know, it's just not really going to happen. Anyway, oh yeah, that's right. So I think that would be good. But if not Wonder Boy, I was thinking actually Burns would make a lot of sense, because Burns, of course, very good grappler, but also a striker. So I mean, you know, it kind of makes sense because, you know, Burns just lost against Chimaev. Neal just won. We could get that going. Of course, Burns has been off for quite a while, so maybe that's not the most reasonable one, but I think it would make a lot of sense in terms of the rankings, of course. And with that kind of win, you know, then maybe he gets Colby or something. I don't know if you get the title shot off of that. I don't think so, but you know, especially considering you've got Edwards now, and then you've probably got Chimaev, honestly, getting a title shot. I mean, what else does he have to do, really? So, you know, it's like we could see any of that, but I don't think we're going to be seeing a Neal title shot anytime soon. Yeah. Or, oh yeah, for Luque though, What I think they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting him against somebody with a lot of heat on them on their way up. And I think there's only two people that fit that description. You've got Rakhmonov, who just got into the top 15 with that win over Neal Magny. So, I mean, Luque and Rakhmonov, that would be crazy. I think that would be insane. That's what I want to see. And I think that would, again, make a lot of sense. Luque just lost to I'm not saying, somebody near the bottom of the top 15. He just lost. So let's give him somebody also near the bottom, but who's also a decent name coming up. You don't want him to lose to somebody. Well, I mean, he did just lose to somebody with no name, but yeah. And then if not Rakhmonov, Michel Pereira. I mean, come on, Pereira and Luque. That's a no-brainer. I mean, they're both complete savages. They have no quit in them. You're going to see an insane brawl. I mean, come on. Who does not want to see Michel Pereira and Vicente Luque? I mean, come on. So I hope, honestly, I hope any of those matches hold up, their matchups hold up, because those are really good, I would think. I would love to see any of those. Main event, Thiago Santos, Jamal Hill. I thought, like most people, Jamal Hill was just going to be way too much for Santos, and he was going to get I thought he was going to get an earlier finish. He still got the finish. I thought it was just going to be a little bit earlier. But again, I did say last time, you can't count anybody like that out. You can't count Thiago Santos out because he's still Thiago Santos, like he's still insane. Like he's still a tough guy. Doesn't care what you do. He's still going to give it his all the entire time. So, I don't think really too many people should be too surprised by the fact that he got all the way to the fourth round like that. Anyway, as expected, they did open it fairly slow, making sure not to get hit early. But then Hill started to pressure forward constantly, as we kind of expected, walked Santos down. That's what he's been doing in every single fight. Makes sense. No surprises there. Santos was landing more kicks, but nothing really that significant was coming from either side at that point. Interestingly, though, Santos was the one who was actually throwing out some takedown attempts, trying to get away from the power. So, I guess it wasn't really all that surprising, especially since, remember, we don't think about Santos as a ground guy anymore, but he is very, very good on the ground. You can't forget that. So it kind of makes sense. But Santos was trying pretty hard, but Hill was doing very, very well to defend that. A lot of people try and take him down. It's not that easy. He's very good at defending that. But you know what? Not a lot of action from Hill early. So I gave Santos the first round there. I thought that was pretty clear. After some striking from both guys in the second round, Santos managed to grab that first takedown of the fight, but Hill quickly got back up there, which, again, not too much of a surprise there. He's very good at defending that kind of thing. And then after a slip from Santos, Hill landed his first big shots of the night, wobbled Santos a little bit, and because you can't, that's really the big thing with Hill. You can't make small mistakes like that. And I know it's a slip. You can't predict a slip, but that it's things like that lets Hill win, because he will capitalize on it every single time. That's just who he is. What was I going to say? Santos responded with some heavy shots of his own later, but Hill was standing his ground there, of course, not letting Santos pressure him back. Swinging some absolute bombs there. Wobbling a little bit, Santos was walking backwards to close the round and seemed pretty clear to be 1-1 at that point, with all that damage from Hill in the second. And then in the third, Santos went back to that grappling, used a takedown, dragged Hill to the ground a couple of times, and just like before, Hill recovered very quickly, getting back to his feet fairly easily every time. And as the round went on, Hill landed some pretty heavy shots in the clinch. But with all that control time, I know we're not supposed to be focusing on control time here. But when it's that much of it and there's not a whole lot else going on, I kind of, you got to favor that. So I would say Santos was up 2-1. And then looking to come back strong though in the fourth, Hill pressured early in the fourth round there, hit Santos with some pretty big shots along the fence. And Santos was landing some bombs of his own, but Hill was relentless, and that's what he does best. He does not stop. He will always move forward looking for that big strike. Kept backing Santos up, exchanging these huge strikes with him until he dropped Santos to the ground. And then from there, Hill let loose shot after shot for really about 30 seconds straight, I would say, until the ref finally stopped it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we like to see the ref wait to stop the fight. I mean, I don't think there was any problem there, but it was a lot. It was a lot of strikes. It was a lot of unanswered strikes. That's for sure. He definitely gave him a chance. Let's just say that. But yeah, and you know what? It took a lot longer than people thought it was going to take for Hill to get that, but he still got a TKO over one of the most accomplished fighters in light heavyweight history. So, I mean, you got to remember that too. It's not like Santos is some schmo. Like, you know, he's the real deal. He went to a split decision. I think it was a split decision with John Jones just a few years ago. So he's the real deal, folks. Yeah. Now, we talked about a couple of potential matchups a bit last week after Smith and Ankalaev fought. And I mean, it still seems like Glover and Yuri will be fighting again. I haven't really heard otherwise. That seems to still be kind of the plan. But if not, I mean, Ankalaev will probably get the title shot. I mean, does he necessarily deserve it after beating Smith like that? Considering Smith really kind of lost because he broke his own ankle or whatever it was. So, you know, was it really all that impressive of a win? Not necessarily, but still, he's still on a huge win streak, and there's not really a whole lot of other people in the division really that even make a lot of sense. So yeah, we're probably seeing Ankalaev get the title shot. But, you know, now that Hill is officially in the mix as well, because we were waiting to see what was going to happen, I think we're probably looking at Ankalaev and Hill or Blachowicz and Hill. And Hill actually did... Oh, wow. Spelling mistake. Hill actually did. I think he said that after his fight, where he was even thinking of, you know, Blachowicz next. And that would make a lot of sense if we're already seeing another title shot anyway. With what are we seeing again? Oh yeah, Yuri and Glover, of course. And even if Ankalaev gets it too, I mean, you know, Blachowicz and Hill kind of makes sense because Blachowicz was kind of promised another title shot, but also he was kind of losing his fight, and he only won because Rakic injured himself. So, you know, it's like, you know, I don't think he really earned a title shot off of that. Definitely not. So, you know, Blachowicz and Hill makes sense for them the next title shot after Ankalaev, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of things. It's a weird thing going on with that division, that's for sure. Now, KO of the night went with Bryan Battle. I mean, that head kick KO was nuts. Sub of the night, Cory McKenna, of course. I mean, I had to give it to her. I mean, there was only 2 subs. It was McKinney and McKenna. Oh, wow, I actually just noticed that. McKinney and McKenna. That's weird. But yeah, I had to give it to McKenna, though, because you got to recognize somebody, like I said, youngest fighter in the women's roster. Shortest person. I mean, actually, I don't know if she's the shortest, but shortest reach on anybody in the whole roster. You know, just... And then she gets the first Von Flue choke in women's history. So in women's UFC history, I should say. So, I mean, really, what more could you do to get a submission bonus here? I mean, it's not all about the showmanship here. I mean, it was still impressive too, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a huge accomplishment. You got to recognize somebody who does that. So for me, submission bonus for sure for Cory McKenna. Brawl of the night. A lot of people actually had the main event, but to me, honestly, there wasn't really a whole lot of action going for the most part. So I had what I thought was the obvious one, Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal. I mean, they were throwing down the whole time and they were back and forth. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for. And it went to the third round. So I thought it was a pretty clear brawl of the night was Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal. I thought that was pretty clear, but I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I like the carnage more than other people. I don't know. But anyway, that was it for that card. So we will now go to the Contender Series yesterday, which was absolutely fantastic. Before I do that, I'm going to take a little sippy sip of a Frappuccino that I got from Starbucks. Good. Not sponsored, but maybe someday. Delicious, though. By the way, Starbucks order, for anybody that's curious, I switch a little bit, but this time I went with the caramel ribbon crunch, but instead of the regular base, I go with the white chocolate mocha base. Very, very good. And that white chocolate mocha base, by the way, works with literally anything. It's so good, so good. My recommendation, if I don't know if anybody's ever going to hear this or whatever, I'll probably talk about it at some point again anyway. But if anybody wants to try, I mean, it's worth the shot. It's worth the shot. Anything, any Frappuccino with that white chocolate mocha base, incredible, incredible. Anyway, moving on from my Starbucks order. Dana White's Contender Series, week 3. Very, very good. Very, very good. I mean, obviously not up to what last week was. I don't know if we can ever top that, because that was a pretty good, that was a pretty insane week for the Contender Series. Opened up with the ladies. That was Karolina Wójcik. I think Wójcik. I'm not really 100% sure on how to pronounce that, to be honest, which is rare for me. But yeah, Karolina Wójcik and Sandra Lovato. I had Wójcik going into this. By the way, we got 4 out of 5 on this one on my picks. We'll go through that as we go on. But yeah, I don't think I'll go too deep into how the fights actually like play by play kind of thing. You know, there was a lot of criticism for Wójcik, and she didn't end up getting the contract because of it. But I mean, I honestly thought that Wójcik did enough. I mean, she was doing really well. She dominated the whole fight. Lovato didn't really get a whole lot going. Really, the only knock on her was that people thought Wójcik wasn't trying to get a finish here, that it wasn't, you know, like that Dana White, you know, Contender Series kind of style. But honestly, if you really were actually paying attention, she was. She was going for the finish. She was trying, but Lovato was doing exactly what I said. Who was doing it? I just talked about them too. But you know, it was Brogan Walker. She was doing the exact same thing as Brogan Walker. She was literally just holding her there, just holding her as hard as she could, like that, for the whole round. Like, how are you going to get out? You know, like, she's trying. Like, Wójcik was trying to get something going. She landed some elbows here and there. Went for a couple of, I think she got a couple of submission attempts in there. So, I mean, she clearly dominated the fight. I don't know. Like, I thought it was a little, and you know, it's at strawweight too. There's not a whole lot of strawweights coming up. So I thought that was a no-brainer for a contract. I really did. I thought that was fantastic, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe I'm easily impressed. I don't know. But you know what? Like I said, dominance, absolutely no question that she won all 3 rounds. Like I said, it was more so just her opponent there. And you can't do a whole lot. You know, if your opponent doesn't want to fight you, what are you going to do? You know, she tried to bring the fight to her. She really did. But if you're just going to try and hold somebody the whole time, it doesn't just negatively impact you. It impacts them as well, because it makes them look like they're not doing anything. So I would say that is 100% Lovato's fault. I don't blame Wójcik for this one at all, which is exactly why, like I said, I thought she deserved the contract. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, like I said, Yeah, there's really, I mean, we'll talk about the contracts at the end, but I thought she earned the contract there. Second fight, Clayton Carpenter, which was my pick, and Edgar Chairez. I gotta say, I was flipping back and forth between these two because they both looked really good. We knew Clayton Carpenter was gonna come in like a maniac. I mean, this guy is insane. And by the way, very entertaining guy. I mean, I was listening to this guy in the post-fight press conference. I love it. I love this guy. I love this guy. I'm definitely going to start. I should have actually followed him last night, to be honest. Very entertaining guy. I mean, he just does not care. I love it. I love everything about this guy. Super honest too. Good sense of humor. Funny guy. I don't even know what to say about his voice. He kind of sounds like Batman, to be honest. I mean, seriously, listen to this guy talk. It's fantastic. I love him. But yeah, Clayton Carpenter, Edgar Chairez. It was just as close as I thought it was going to be. And I was actually a little worried about how Carpenter was going to handle the second and third rounds, because if you see this guy, like I said, comes out like a demon. I mean, he just does not care. He wants to get that finish in the first round, and he will die trying. That is who he is, which you gotta love. I love that. That's perfect. That is the perfect kind of fighter for me. So yeah, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, Chairez was trying to lead the dance in the striking, but every time he threw a strike, Carpenter would have one back and then land it twice as hard. I mean, this guy was not, he wanted that contract, and that's how he fights all the time. It wasn't even just the contract. That's just how he fights, which you gotta love again. By the way, these two guys, I like, you'd have thought that flyweight was a typo. Seriously. I mean, Carpenter, I swear to God, he looked like he was fighting at 145 or 155. I mean, this guy is massive. I don't even know how either one of them could ever weigh 125 pounds. That is how insanely big these guys are. And you know what? They honestly look so big that they made Figueiredo look small. That is how big they look to me. Seriously. And Figueiredo is a stupidly big flyweight. But Clayton Carpenter and Chairez, actually, they both, I don't know how. I have no idea how these guys make weight. And I would even say that Carpenter has a good shot at making his name at bantamweight, too. I really do. He's that good. And he's that dangerous. He really is. So, I mean, flyweight, he's looking, I'm not even kidding. I think he's got a pretty good shot at going into the top 15 within the next year. I would say 2 years for sure, because I mean, he's just going to keep getting better. I am so impressed. By the way, again, same age as me, 26. Actually, I think he might have just turned 27 or something like that. So, I mean, he's got a huge career ahead of him. I can't wait to see what Carpenter does. And I just completely glossed over the entire fight there. Just go watch it. I mean, seriously, it was back and forth the whole time. Carpenter was fighting with this massive black eye, which he actually said didn't really hurt. He couldn't even really feel it. He just said it clearly looked a lot worse than it actually felt, because it didn't feel like much. But but he started to get a little bit concerned when the doctor came in. He was like, "Oh wow, okay, this must look a lot worse than it feels, because it doesn't really feel that bad." Again, maniac, love the guy. But anyway, obviously deserved a contract there. I mean, yeah, I mean, and like I said, I thought he was going to get tired. I really did. And that was my one concern. But the fact that he did not get tired all 3 rounds, just that high pace, massive shots the whole time, never slowed down. And he won 29-28, by the way. I think it was because of that first round? Yeah, it was because of that first round, because he did get hit pretty bad there. But yeah, I agreed, 29-28. And yeah, like I said, I mean, when you've got insane cardio like that, and you're massive, and you're relentless with your offense, you've got massive power, pretty good grappling too. I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. I can't wait to see him fight again. I am so excited. I mean, the Contender Series just pumps out these massive guys sometimes, and this is one of those guys. And we're going to be talking about another one later in Bo Nickal, of course, too. But wow, I was very impressed by Clayton Carpenter there. And you know what? It was actually at the point where I even thought that maybe Chairez was also going to get a contract, because they were both really giving it a lot there. And it was close. It was close. But my God, and you could really see how tough Chairez was too to take all that punishment, because I'm telling you right now, there are probably a couple of guys in the top 15 at flyweight right now that would not be able to handle what Clayton Carpenter just did. So I could not have been more impressed, other than if he would have gotten a finish there, or if he wouldn't have gotten kicked in the face like that and gotten that massive black eye. But anyway, other than that, which is exactly why he wasn't number one on my, I mean, really, there's no other person other than Bo Nickal who could have taken that number one spot on my power ranking. But anyway, fight number 3, Erik Silva and Anvar Boynazarov. Yeah, Boynazarov. I always keep thinking I mix it up, the name, but no, that's how you say it. I actually had Boynazarov going into this because I watched the tape. And you know what? This guy's stand-up is fantastic. He is very, very good. But, you know, I was actually worried about it going into this, and that I should have switched my pick. I was thinking about it, because I even saw that there was a huge size difference. I knew that Erik Silva was a lot bigger than Boynazarov, but I figured, you know what? Boynazarov, he's got the kickboxing experience. He's very good at the striking. So, I thought maybe he could overcome it. Sadly, I should have gone with my original thought that, Silva's just really big. And that is exactly what Dana White said in the interview after, because Erik Silva, literally all he did, he ran straight forward, got the takedown, dominated him on the ground. Boynazarov literally did absolutely nothing. And the first thing Dana White said is, he was like, as soon as I saw that, I knew he wasn't getting it up. There's no way that Boynazarov could have gotten it up. Not just because he's a kickboxer that doesn't necessarily have that grappling experience, but also just because he's too small. He's just way too small. He can't get up like that against somebody that's as big as Erik Silva. Because Erik Silva is a true, featherweight, I think it was. He's a true featherweight. Like, he cuts down. He's pretty big. Whereas Boynazarov kind of doesn't really cut much. I mean, he's still shredded, but, he could make bantamweight, and he would be a lot better down there. And that's exactly what Dana White ended up saying. I mean, still, obviously, give Erik Silva the contract. I mean, you can't punish him just because of that, because he was still pretty good too. But yeah. Fight number 4. Jamal Pogues, Paulo Renato Jr. I had Pogues going into this, but I definitely thought he was going to be a lot better, because I got to say, he looked better in his last Dana White's Contender Series appearance than he did in this one. Because again, obviously, I watched it before just to, make my picks and all that. And I was way more impressed with Pogues before. I was not really all that impressed this time. And Pogues was clearly way bigger too. So it wasn't even just that he didn't get a finish. It's like, he didn't get a finish over somebody that was a lot smaller than him, that also wasn't, really much of a grappler, when you are a wrestler / grappler, and you showed that last time. So, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Fight IQ wise, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, because the obvious place to go when you're the much, much bigger person, by the way, wasn't even close. Like, Pogues was clearly way bigger. It was even a 20-pound difference without any kind of weight cutting garbage, like, it was a 20-pound difference clearly. And he was just bigger everywhere. Like, I think he was taller, had more reach, and he was bigger. So, I mean, the obvious choice there, especially considering what you did last fight, would be to grapple, push him along the fence, take him down, lie on top of him, whatever, ground and pound, anything, go for anything. But all he did was literally just jab. He was jabbing the entire fight, didn't even throw really anything that significant in terms of combos. And then Renato was even worse. Like, he was just throwing kicks. Like, kicks are good, but follow it up with something. You're not really doing a whole lot if you're just doing kick, especially when Pogues clearly wasn't getting damaged by it. It wasn't bugging him at all. He wasn't limping, didn't even make a face. He literally just ate it and kept going with his own thing, which again is weird because Pogues, after eating a leg kick like that, which wasn't even that hard, he was right there. He was, he was right there to go in with a huge hook or something, counter or something. There was just so much that I was like, this isn't good. Like, this is not good fight IQ whatsoever. So I wasn't impressed. I would not have given out the contract personally. And we'll talk about, again, what happened later with the contracts. But yeah, I would not have given out a contract here personally. I was not impressed whatsoever by Pogues on this one. I really, really wasn't. When, the other guy clearly, and he was like flabby. Renato was like a pretty flabby heavyweight, and he was only, like I said, about 220. So, it's like, this guy's a light heavyweight at worst. Like, he could probably actually, if he really wanted to be in shape, he could easily make middleweight, to be honest. That's kind of how big the size difference was. So again, it's like, there's no fight IQ on the side of Pogues. So he easily could have gone for takedowns here, or even clinched him up against the fence, elbows, knees, anything, elbows in the clinch, anything, uppercuts, ground and pound on the ground, anything. I mean, you're way bigger than the other guy. It's the obvious thing to do. Fight number 5. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, Bo Nickal coming in, obviously, rightfully so, massive favorite. I don't think there was any surprise as to what happened here. Destroyed Zachary Borrego. What I thought was baffling to me, I mean, seriously, the odds of a submission were plus 250. Plus 250. Seriously. He literally is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And submission was plus 250. They were actually favoring the knockout above that. And like, I get it, ground and pound. He knocked somebody out last fight, but this guy is literally one of the best wrestlers on the planet. I mean, all he has to do is, which is what he did, run in, get a takedown, submit the guy, maybe do some ground and pound here and there. But it's just too easy. It's too easy for him to submit somebody. So I was going submission all day. I mean, that was my pick on Tapology, and I was going to put money down on it, but I ended up forgetting. I hate myself for it because, man, would I have cashed in on that. Plus 250 for a submission for Bo Nickal. That is unreal. That is unbelievable when that is the clear choice for any kind of prediction, was first round submission all day. So yeah, I couldn't believe that. But anyway, and I mean, after this, I mean, I said right away, give this guy a contract. I mean, like, it's so stupid. Like, people were even saying before Dana White even handed out the contracts, give him a developmental contract, blah, blah, blah. It's like, do you not realize how good this guy is? Like, no, like, you could literally put this guy against somebody in the top 15 at middleweight. I mean, I don't want to, again, I don't like shitting on people. I don't like shitting on whole groups of people, but like, seriously, I don't think it's really an argument. I mean, like, the middleweight is clearly the one of the divisions that's struggling the most. In fact, I would say it's probably the division that's struggling the most, because who is there that's really doing a whole lot? It's literally Izzy and Pereira. Everybody else is kind of like, it's like, nobody really that great doing anything. Welterweight is even a little bit better, and that's saying a lot, because welterweight doesn't even have a whole lot going for it either. I mean, there's definitely some people at welterweight, but yeah, middleweight, no. It's almost as bad as light heavyweight. Light heavyweight's pretty bad too. I mean, you've literally just got, Ankalaev is somebody, Smith is somebody, Yuri, yes, but then Glover and Jan are basically done. They're basically retired now. I mean, they're near the end, like 1 or 2 fights away. So that division's dead. So, I mean, middleweight's the same thing. So, I mean, when you've got somebody like this, by the way, and Nickal even said this himself. I saw in a video this morning, and I was thinking the exact same thing. There's nobody at middleweight that can wrestle like that at all. Not even close. Literally not even close. And I'm serious in saying that he could easily beat, I would say, half the people in the middleweight division in the top 15 right now. So, I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. And I know why. Like, I can pretty much guarantee you it has nothing to do with, you know, oh, like, oh, he's 2-0. What? Who cares? You know how good he is. You saw it. Like, he's clearly insanely good. I mean, it's like, who cares that he's 2-0? You could literally, like I said, even give him a top 15 fight right now. Easily. And he would pretty easily, I would say, beat whoever it is, no matter who it is in the top 15 in the bottom half, at least. Anyway, so, I mean, I think that's just absurd. And like I said, I know why they're doing it. You want ratings for the Contender Series. Like, am I wrong? Like, what other reason is there than you want to bump up the ratings for that episode of the Contender Series? Because it's going to be the most watched one, because Bo Nickal is going to be there. He's going to destroy some guy off the street, basically. It's like, you're getting a guaranteed win, guaranteed ratings. I mean, I totally understand it from that point of view, but it is kind of like, like, give the guy a real fight. If you really actually wanted to pump up the rating, what you should do is give him a fight on a pay-per-view, on the next pay-per-view. Seriously. Like, like, you're telling me he couldn't take a short notice fight in Utah at the next pay-per-view, which I think is next week? He could easily do that. And are you kidding? The story behind that? You'd get way crazier numbers and stories based on that than another Contender Series fight. Personally, I think they fucked that one up. I really did. But yeah, anyway, the contracts, I kind of alluded to it earlier, Dana said Wójcik, the first fighter, Karolina Wójcik, that she looked good, but wasn't really blown away by anything. And like I said, like, I totally understand that, but that was not her fault. That was, I forget her opponent's name, but that was her opponent's fault on that one. That had absolutely nothing to do with Wójcik. So like I said, I would have given the contract. Dana did not on this one, but it seemed like he was pretty open to bringing her back again. So hopefully she comes back, gets a more willing opponent, and then, does the same thing there, dominates that opponent too. For Clayton Carpenter, he did get the contract, of course. I mean, Dana was taking his time in explaining it, but he was very much enthusiastic about Clayton Carpenter, of course. And I mean, how could you not be? Super dangerous, by the way, pretty big opponent himself too. So, I mean, how much more impressive could he be? Obviously, got the comeback as well from getting kicked in the face like that. But yeah, so no surprise there. Contract, yeah. But was a little surprising though is, well, actually, I guess it wasn't surprising when we heard the reason why, but Dana not really impressed with the whole Silva situation, not because of anything that Silva did. Like I said earlier, Dana was just upset that Boynazarov was fighting at featherweight. Like, it just was not a good matchup. Should have had a true featherweight go in there against Silva to give him, a real good idea of how good he actually is. But, you can't deny somebody a contract when they just smoked somebody in less than a minute. So, I get it. But yeah, I don't even know what to say about that one. Yeah. Then we had Jamal Pogues. Like I said, I didn't think he really did enough to deserve a contract, but Dana White seemed to be more into about like what he did outside of the cage on this one. That, he was impressed that he came back the second time, but not only that, apparently he only came back on like 2 weeks notice or something like that. And it was a second time. And there were a couple other things too, I think, like that. I think from what I remember, I can't remember what they were, but yeah. So, had to go through a lot to get here. And he did show that he does have some skill. He just doesn't necessarily know how to use it. And that's really what I was saying too. I didn't say that he couldn't, that he didn't have skills. I just said he kind of just doesn't know how to use any of it. He just has terrible fight IQ because he had a lot of skill in that last matchup, but he didn't use any of it yesterday. So, he's got the skills, just doesn't have any fight IQ really whatsoever. So it seems like Dana White sees that too, and they're gonna help him get a whole camp in and improve that kind of thing so that he can start getting finishes, because there is that potential there. But yeah, personally, I would have not given him the contract because you kind of got to work on that before you get to the UFC. That's just my opinion, my point of view on that. Yeah. Then we had, of course, Bo Nickal. I mean, like I said, a stupid situation. I mean, there's no reason you don't give him the contract. And like I said, if you really wanted to make headlines, give him a fight on the pay-per-view. Maybe not even this next pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view after that. Give him some huge pay-per-view card on the main card, maybe the featured prelim against somebody that's, half decent, not in somebody in the top 15 yet, because you don't want to rush them, but somebody good. I think that's how you make headlines. That's how you get people to pay attention. Put somebody from the Contender Series after their second fight on the featured prelim of a pay-per-view. I mean, that to me is the no-brainer. That's what I would be doing. That is what I would be doing. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't do that. That to me would have been the obvious choice, but I don't know. Anyway, that's what they went with. And my power rankings, Bo Nickal, of course, number one. I mean, how could you see that any other way? I had Erik Silva in second because of the finish. I mean, it was still an impressive way to go. And then Clayton Carpenter in third. I mean, like I said, you know what? If he wouldn't have gotten hit like that in the first round, I would have given him the second spot pretty easily. But yeah, deserve that third spot. Fantastic looking prospect there. Fourth, Karolina Wójcik. I was pretty impressed. I really was. Like I said, that was all down to her opponent there. That was not her fault. And then fifth, Jamal Pogues. I was not impressed. It really was, just mostly the fight IQ, but it was just so egregiously bad that I just couldn't give him any higher than last place for that on the power rankings there. And the best of the rest, I had to give that to Chirez. I mean, pretty legit there. By the way, if you weren't watching the show itself yesterday, Contender Series, somebody from last week who we thought maybe was going to get a contract for losing, Shannon Ross, actually did end up getting a contract, but it happened after because we found out that he had appendicitis. He was fighting in the fight last week with appendicitis, went straight to the hospital to get that appendix removed. Fighter, the people who actually, the matchmakers and all that. I forget who it was. I think it might have been Mick Maynard or something. Heard about that, had to give him the contract. I mean, seriously. I mean, like I said, we even thought he was going to get a contract last week for losing. So the fact that he was somehow fighting a fist fight, an insane fist fight, by the way, with appendicitis at the time. I mean, that's pure insanity. So of course they gave him a contract after fighting fighting. I don't even know where I was going to say with that. Of course he got the contract. Anyways, I lost my train of thought there. I need another sip of my Frappuccino, clearly. So that is it for the Contender Series. We will take a short break and we will be back with this week's fights, which of course, UFC San Diego. I will see you right after this.
Allow me to introduce Pie Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back with UFC San Diego. It opens up. Well, we'll go with the main card, of course. And actually, I didn't write about the first one on the main card because honestly, I don't think it's gonna stay on the main card. I'd be a little surprised. Plus, people don't really know who they are. It's 2 people. I think one of them. No, I'm not even sure if either one of them were on the Contender Series. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but it's Jauregui and Lucindo. Yeah, so I don't think that those ladies are going to open up the main card. I'd be surprised. I mean, you've got O'Day Osborne on the card. You've got a couple other guys too who are in the prelims right now, and I mean, we're still looking at Ariana Lipski, Priscilla Cajueda. I mean, that was supposed to be on the main card last week. So I would think that should open the main card this week. That's my opinion. So I'm not going to talk about that today. I will just say, though, that I did have the favorite, Jauregui. So, yeah, take that with what you will. I mean, I think it honestly didn't even really look that close to me. So, yeah, I'm going with Jauregui on this one, but I'm not going to go into huge detail about it because... yeah, I don't think it's going to stay on the main card. So the one that is on the main card and that definitely will stay on the main card is Nina Nunes, Cynthia Calvillo. I don't think this is really all that close, and I don't really say that too much with the women's fights. Again, I say this all the time, but you know, women's fights can really go either way at any point. So, you know, a lot of them really could go either way. But this one, to be honest, I just don't see how Calvillo doesn't win this. I gotta say. Because, you know, Nina Nunes, she always fights at 115. And she isn't the most shredded individual even at 115. So, you know, she's going against Calvillo, who is 125. Like, she is fully 125, cutting down to 125, and she's fairly large. So already that screams Calvillo, but not even that. It's just like, you know, what's Nunes done? I mean, she had 4 straight wins against Miranda Marcos, Angela Hill, Claudia Gadelha, and somebody else, but has now lost to Tatiana Suarez, who hasn't actually fought in a long time, which I've never even seen her fight live. I've obviously now seen her in this because I watched her fight here. But yeah, and then Mackenzie Dern. And you know what? I mean, she got just dominated all over the place by both of them. Dominated on the feet and in the grappling. And you know what? Like Calvillo is actually a pretty solid contender. The record doesn't suggest that. She's gone 1-3-1 in her last 5. But, you know, she was doing really well against Andrea Lee before she got finished. And by the way, Andrea Lee is an insane striker, and that's really what was getting the better of her. And by the way, she still busted open Andrea Lee's nose. So, I mean, it was, and I think actually from what I remember, Calvillo, I think might have won that opening round. So she had a really, really tough, close fight with Andrea Lee already. So that to me tells me that there is no way that Nina Nunes is going to do anything that throws Calvillo off if she can get through that. And then Andrade before that. I mean, we all know how good Andrade is. So I didn't even watch that fight. I knew it wasn't going to be relevant at all. And then she went to decisions with Chukagian Ai and Rodriguez. So, I mean, those are three of literally the top. I mean, maybe not so much, but Chookagian, a clear number 2, number 3 contender. And what was the other one? Rodriguez, same thing. Clear 3rd, 4th place contender. So I just don't see how Nina Nunes has literally anything whatsoever for Calvillo. And again, I don't normally say this for women's fights, but I see a finish here. I really do. Calvillo is so good. She's dangerous. She's hugely dangerous. And Nina just, I mean, she was struggling at straw weight at 115 with a lot of those people. So yeah, I'm seeing a pretty brutal finish here. I really do. I don't think it's going to be the first round, but 2nd or 3rd round. Yeah, I'm seeing a finish for Calvillo here, which is crazy to me that the odds are this close. And I mean, I think that's just the nature of women's MMA, is when you find something that actually is like, oh, okay, we've got a good winner here. They still don't necessarily, that's still not necessarily reflected in the odds a whole lot. So we can definitely cash in pretty good on this one. Calvillo minus 175. I mean, that is an absolute no-brainer. Throw that in a parlay for sure. I mean, that'll bring the numbers up for you. Minus 175. Like I said, I just don't see any possible way Nina Nunes is getting out of this. I mean, you don't have to bet on the finish. I will be, but you don't have to bet on the finish. But I mean, she's bigger. She's more skilled in every area. I just don't see how it's even plausible that Nina Nunes wins this fight. I really don't. And by the way, also, I mean, I don't want to, you get into tricky territory when you talk about this kind of thing, but Nunes also literally just gave birth, 2 years ago? I mean, I'm not saying you can't fight after that. Obviously, of course you can. But I mean, are you going to be able to physically fight the same way that you could have? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I would find it hard to imagine to come back after that, especially when you're not 25 or 28, something like that. She's like 30, I want to say 35 or something like that, or 33, something like that. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many huge things going against Nunes here that I think this is one of the easiest women's fights I've ever had to pick, for sure. So, I mean, a no-brainer at minus 175. And I will be putting that in a parlay. Minus 220 for over 2.5. Like I said, I mean, you'd be stupid. I think you'd be stupid. You'd be silly not to at least try. Put a few. You don't have to put crazy. You don't have to put $50 or $100 on the under 2.5 here. But like I said, there is so much going for Calvillo here. You really got to give it a chance. Plus 171 for under 2.5. I mean, that you got to take the chance on that one, because they can't all be decisions too. I mean, like, not all women's fights are going to end in a decision. So eventually you're going to see a finish. And this is probably one of the best opportunities for that to happen. So yeah, I suggest to everybody out there, put at least a little bit on Calvillo for a finish here. I really, really do think so. Next up, Devin Clark, Azamat Murzakanov. And this is another one that I would say favors us heavily here, because I think people are getting thrown off by the records here. Murzakanov, I mean, he is still undefeated, 11-0, but you know what? I'm not impressed. I'm not even remotely impressed by this whatsoever. And you know what? If you go back to his last fight, the stream on the last fight, I specifically said I did not pick Murzakanov even the last fight, and that was against Nchukwi. And you know what? I still stand by that, because Nchukwi was up 2 rounds to nothing. 2 rounds to nothing. And it wasn't even really all that close. And Devin Clark is miles better than Tefon Nchukwi. Like, that's not even close. So if you think, which you should, I mean, I don't know how you could possibly argue that fact, that Clark is clearly better than Nchukwi in every realm. So You know, like where is Murzakanov coming into that? You know, like where is his advantage at all? Because I don't see one anywhere. Like he basically got lucky against Nchukwi, landing a pretty good shot, but that was it. Like I said, he was losing. He was down 2 rounds to nothing. And everybody agreed that. Like the commentators were saying that. All the live scores said that. I didn't check the judges' scores after that. But I distinctly remember, I think I did look it up after. And I think one of the judges had it 1-1 or something like that. But from what I remember, again, don't quote me on that part of it. But all of the live scores, the judges, and even myself saw it 2-0 for Nchukwi. So, I mean, there's literally nothing going for Murzakanov here. And he did not show anything in that fight that presents any kind of risk to somebody like Clark, because Clark was fighting up a division. He was fighting wasn't he fighting at heavyweight? Yeah. He beat William Knight at heavyweight. Like, and Murzakanov was getting thrown around by Tefon Nchukwi. And Nchukwi, let's be honest, I mean, he's probably a heavyweight too, to be fair. Like, he could easily fight a heavyweight because he's so big, but he was getting thrown around by him. So it's like, you know, like I just don't see any avenue whatsoever. Clark also, I literally just said, William Knight, he has some of the hardest punches in the UFC, same as Alonzo Menefield, also has ridiculous punch power, and he beat both of them. So there is absolutely no way that Murzakanov can land anything that throws off Clark when he's already faced William Knight and Alonzo Menefield, and he did lose to Kute Laba and Anthony Smith too. But I mean, there's just like, it's crazy to me that people are picking Murzakanov here. I think this is a complete no-brainer. Devin Clark all the way, and I think he's pretty easily going to get a finish too. Because like I said, Nchukwi was close to getting a finish, and Clark way, way heavier. And I mean, I even wrote down here, what was I going to say here? Blah, blah, blah. He's got heavy grappling, so already that's going to win him a decision if he doesn't feel like getting a finish already. And he's got great cardio that Murzakanov was struggling with. Clearly, he slowed down way, like a lot. And that's against Nchukwi, who is already slow. And he's got very, very good striking. So dangerous striking. I mean, not very good striking, but definitely decent and heavy. So, I mean, I just don't see any possible way. Like, I would be shocked, to be honest, if Clark not only loses this fight, but if Clark doesn't get a finish. I would be pretty surprised, to be honest. I really would be. So I'm going hard on Clark with this one. Plus 125. I mean, talk about a blessing in disguise. I mean, seriously, like that's 2 betting lines in a row that heavily favor us. I mean, plus 125 for Devin Clark against somebody who barely beat Tefon Nchukwi, literally landed one huge strike that just happened to basically, knock him out essentially. And that's because, again, Nchukwi is a little slow. Like, he is pretty slow. And before that, he was getting destroyed. So, I mean, like, it's just crazy to me. And I know I'm talking about it a lot, but seriously, these 2 fights specifically, that's insane to me that it's not, like, wildly in favor of Calvillo and even just slightly in favor of Clark. Like, to even, if it would have even been like minus 150 or something for Clark, I would have understood. But plus 125 for Clark, that's crazy. That's crazy. So yeah, definitely putting a lot of money on that one. Over under on this, 2.5, and they are favoring the under, which does make a lot of sense. Minus 137 for the under. I'm going with that one, of course. And like I said, honestly, I'm actually seeing a first round finish, maybe a second round finish for Clark. But honestly, yeah, I'm seeing a first round finish here. I really do. But first, second round. So minus 137, under 2.5. For sure, I'm taking that. For sure, I'm taking that all day. Then we've got Gerald Meerschaert and Bruno Silva. Oh my goodness. I mean, if I don't see the odds and it's wildly, oh my God. This is a crazy. These odds are insane. I mean, it's only at minus 300 right now. And if you don't even know who I'm talking about as the favorite right now, I might have to call you a casual. Because, I mean, Meerschaert isn't even, I mean, he's okay. He's good on the ground. That is one skill that he has. If he can get you down on the ground and you're not that good on the ground, he's probably going to win. But in any other situation, if you've got good stand-up and good grappling, he's screwed. Like, he's going to lose every single time. And Bruno Silva is one of the most brutal punchers I've ever seen. And if you don't believe me, watch his fight against Alex Pereira. He literally wobbled, stumbled, hit Pereira, world champion kickboxer who's about to fight Izzy Adesanya. He wobbled him multiple times with massive bombs. If he's doing that to a world kickboxing champion who is about to have a title shot, literally like 6 months ago, he did this. I mean, there is no round, like, he is getting a first round KO. Like, I just don't even see another outcome. I mean, maybe he gets a submission by knocking him down, but seriously, I mean, this is going to be a brutal, brutal knockout. I don't know if it's going to be Chimaev level where Chimaev beat Meerschaert in 15 seconds with the first punch he threw. I don't know if we're going to be on that level, but this is not close. Like, Silva is going to walk straight through him and destroy him with punches. Like I said, first round knockout. That's honestly, I don't like to use the word lock, but this might be a situation where I would say that, where Bruno Silva is going to get a knockout for sure. Like, I would be shocked if he didn't, unless, like I said, unless he goes for a submission after knocking him down. But yeah, the odds on this minus 300. I mean, for real, I'm being dead serious right now. I would have put this at minus 600 at least. Minus 5, minus 600, because that's seriously not even close. Meerschaert plus 240. So yeah, no brainer for a parlay there, of course. And I mean, if you find props that are like first round KO Silva, jump all over that. All over that. That's what I'm doing for sure. Over under is set at over under 1.5. Makes sense. I mean, I think people are kind of seeing that happen too. Under 1.5 minus 125. You know, like, that's definitely on the edge of not being worth it, but still, when you consider this matchup, I mean, minus 125, it's still, still definitely worth it. Minus 125 for something that's that clearly one-sided. Yeah. Co-main, David Onama and Nate Landwehr. I gotta say, this one, they're not giving much credit to Landwehr. I'm not saying that he's going to win. I'm not picking him. I will pick Onama. But I got to say, it is a lot closer than people are giving credit for. And I was thinking, too, when I saw this matchup, I was like, Landwehr, are you kidding me? Like, if you look at his record, he gets finished a lot. But when you actually watch his fights, it's this is a little bit more of a toss-up. It really is, because he is relentless. He does not give up, has endless cardio, and just gets right in there, in your face with his striking, trying to do everything to knock you out, or to at least make this a dirty, dirty fight. And Onama doesn't really tend to do well against that. So, you know, this is where it kind of is a little bit of a toss-up. So yeah, I mean, Landwehr is a lot more dangerous than people think here, because you got to remember too, he is 2-2 in the UFC, which, I mean, it's not terrible. But he got with 2 KO losses, by the way, but those wins, he beat Ludovic Klein and Darren Elkins, who are fairly decent themselves. So you can't count Landwehr out on this one. And Onama, you know, speaking on what we just saw, what we've seen recently, even in his last fight, he does kind of struggle with people that have a lot of pressure, which is exactly that's the epitome of Landwehr is pressure. So, I mean, I'm still picking Onama, and I'll tell you why. Because he still has the power to drop Landwehr and then finish him, basically. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I'm going Onama by finish. But if Landwehr is on his game here and Onama is, struggling a little bit, there seriously could be an upset here. There really could be. So I'm not sure if I want to put this in a parlay. So I probably wouldn't put this one in a parlay, to be honest, with Onama. But I will be picking him for sure. Because he's also, you got to go looking a little bit at the record and stuff like that. But if you really watch them, Landwehr is way more dangerous than he looks. So I'm staying away from the parlay. But minus 300 for Onama, there's still a little bit of something there. If you're going, you just want to be like, I'll pick an underdog here and there just in case. Maybe this is one that you would put a couple dollars on, but it's definitely a little riskier. Clark is an underdog, and that's a pretty clear choice for an underdog. Landwehr, plus 233, there's definitely still a lot there, and it could be worth the risk of even just like $10, $20 if you're comparing it. But because you should be able to cash in pretty big on this card, to be honest, especially with what I'm saying. But I don't know if you'd want to risk too much on Landwehr on this one, but it is a lot closer than people think. Than at least what I'm seeing anyway. Again, maybe he runs in too quick and gets clipped immediately, but it should be interesting for sure. Over under right now is at 1.5. I would probably go with the over on this one, to be honest, but it is at minus 160. So, the numbers aren't really supporting us here. So I'm not sure if I would do that, but that is the direction I would be headed in for sure. Especially since I would say both of them are actually pretty tough, because Landwehr is a pretty tough guy too. So I would think this is going to be over 1.5, but you never know. Like I said, Landwehr could literally just run straight forward. Onama lands a big one, and that's it. That could easily happen in the first round. So I might stay away from betting too much on this fight. There's way too many questions on this one for me anyway. The main event after that, Chito Vera and Dominic Cruz. I'm not going to lie. Going into this week, I was like, I'm going Dominic Cruz all day on this one. Not just because I think Dominic Cruz is wildly underestimated. He really is. People do not take him seriously, and I don't know why. Seriously, if you look at his record is what, 22-3? Are you kidding me? And one of his losses was just in the title fight against Cejudo, who, by the way, that was an early stoppage. So, he easily could have kept going. So, that's why I was thinking going into it, where I was like, people are wildly underestimating Cruz on this one. But you know what? I gotta say, he keeps getting dropped. He keeps getting dropped by all of these other people, all of these other strikers, and he ends up winning because he's a 5-round fighter. He is a decision kind of guy in these longer fights. And this is a longer fight, but the problem is you can't do that. You can't get hit by Chito like that, because when you get hit by Chito, that's it. He's going to swarm you, and that's going to be it. He's in a lot of decisions for sure, but he's going to jump on top of you. And with Cruz, I just don't see him recovering from that and being able to win a decision. And personally, I don't think he's going to be able to recover. I think he's going to get stopped again. I think it's going to take a while, because you've got Dominic Cruz's weird, awkward movement. So I don't think it's going to be the first or the second round. Might not even be the third, but third, fourth round, somewhere in there, I think Chito's going to get a finish here. I really do, because Chito also has heavy, heavy kicks that he lands on everybody. Nobody has been able to avoid those kicks. And Cruz, that is his kryptonite, like his movement. His movement is what gives him wins. So if you give him kicks, which is exactly what people have started to figure out and realize, calf kicks now being such a big deal, that is why he's been struggling to win recently. I mean, he's won since the Cejudo one, but it was a split decision against Casey Kenny because of those kicks. And then he won his last one, which was Pedro Munoz. But Pedro Munoz, again, he dropped him because he slowed him down with those kicks. That's what it is here. And although I still really don't like Chito Vera, I gotta say, when it's 5 rounds, you throw out these kicks constantly. I mean, Cruz is going to slow down pretty quick because of those kicks. He won't be able to avoid the punches anymore. That's when he gets dropped. It's happened in his last couple of fights. He's just managed to push through it with those guys. But Chito Vera is not Casey Kenny, and he is not, definitely not Pedro Munoz. So, I mean, he's way more dangerous than both of those guys. So, I mean, he's going to just chop those legs. He's going to slow down. He's going to get hit by, Cruz is going to get hit by something, and then that'll be it. And it'll be, like I said, probably somewhere around the third or the fourth round. It could even be the second round if he gets those leg kicks going even faster than I think he could. And we know actually also that Chito does start out slow. So that's another thing. He's probably going to start off slow the first round and the second round, So to me, third round, fourth round finish, Chito Vera, that makes the most amount of sense to me. But we could see a decision as well, for sure. And based on what I said, the odds are actually looking pretty good for us. I mean, Chito Vera is a fairly significant favorite here, -240. So I'm putting that in a parlay, to be honest. And again, I like Cruz. He's very, very talented and wildly underestimated by everybody. But in this case, I think it's justified that people are kind of going in the other direction. Because I was actually with him on the last couple, and he was an underdog, I think, against Pedro Munoz. And I had him all day. I mean, I was like, I don't see why they have Munoz on this one. I mean, I think Cruz is the obvious choice. But in this case, yeah, I mean, you got to go with Vera. So -240 for Vera. I'm throwing that in a parlay. +190 for Cruz. I just don't see any reason to go in that direction. It's not worth the risk at all. Over under is set at 4.5. So they're clearly going for that decision. And it actually heavily favors that as well at -193. But I got to say, those leg kicks, I think it's going to slow down Cruz too much. And when he slows down, he always, always, always gets hit as soon as he starts to slow down. So I think I really do think Chito's going to get a finish here, even though that's going to be wildly depressing to watch because I don't want to see Cruz get destroyed. But I'm sad to say that I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So, but betting wise, I mean, under 4.5 rounds +150, that's screaming profit for us. I mean, yeah. Again, he is a decision machine, but you know what? I gotta say on this one, doesn't look like it's going to be going that long. So +150, under 4.5. I'm going that all day. I really am. The prelims now. There are only 2 that I want to talk about, and one of them, honestly, is pretty quick, I gotta say. Actually, there's 2. I mean, there's 3, I should say. The first one, this might end up being on the main card. We don't really know yet what they're going to be doing, but it seems like Ariane Lipski and Priscilla Cachoeira is still happening. And if you'll remember what I said last time, I actually had Lipski going into it, But I did say how very much close it was on that one. But I will tell you what happened. I switched my mind on this one. I had to switch it to Cachoeira. And I've never done that before, and I probably won't do it. I mean, it's not something I ever really do, because it doesn't make much sense. Because, you know, most times fighters go into fights, you know, they're not 100%, but they're consistently, you know, they're consistent enough that you basically kind of know what's going to happen in general. But in this case, you kind of have to go in the other direction, I gotta say, because it was canceled last week. And if you don't know why the Lipski fight was canceled last week, it is because Lipski came in a few pounds overweight, actually, and still ended up not being medically cleared because of the weight cut. She cut so hard that she really couldn't fight. The commission wouldn't allow it. So, I mean, already that's a terrible sign. That's a terrible sign that I was even going to switch my pick at the last second last week if it wasn't canceled, because that was bad enough where it was like, oh boy, oh boy. So yeah. And I mean, you think about it like this. You know, Cachoeira made the weight, didn't seem to have too much of a problem. Lipski didn't even make the weight and still wasn't medically cleared, which means she must have been in very, very rough shape to not make weight and still have problems. Then you got to also think, you know, she gained her weight back, obviously, from rehydrating herself and making herself healthy again. And now she's going to fight again less than a week, you know, well, a week later, still having to cut weight. And yes, they did change the weight class. They did. If you checked it, it was at 125 originally. They moved it back up to 130. But here's the problem. She was at 128, I think, or something like that at the end of last week. So, and that was after cutting a lot. So you got to think, rehydrated back up, she's got to be about she was probably about 135-ish, if not even 140. And it sounds like a lot, but like I said, she was cutting a lot of weight to get down to that 125. So you got to think she probably gained up to 10 or 15 pounds after that, after she rehydrated. Then after that, she's got to cut the weight down again before Friday to make 130 this time. So she's still, you know, she doesn't have to cut as much weight, but she's still got to cut down twice in 2 weeks after missing weight the first time horribly, like in a terrible situation. So, I mean, are you starting to see where I'm going with this now? You know, it's like, it just does not look good. It really looks bad. Especially when you consider the fact that Cachoeira is coming into this perfectly fine, where she's like, oh, okay, you mean I just have to rehydrate up and cut down to 130 this time? Okay. Like, and by the way, she's a pretty big flyweight too. So I'm sure she's probably thinking, oh, you mean I get to fight at 130 now? Fantastic. Amazing. Sign me up. Because Cachoeira is pretty big. So, and Lipski's really main advantage was cardio going into this fight. So the fact that, you know, you've got to think the cardio is out the window at this point with 2 weight cuts that are going to be brutal. That cardio is out the window. The strength probably out the window. So to me, I mean, yeah, why would you, you know, like I've got to switch to the other direction. I've got to put the money on Cachoeira this time, especially, like I said, I was about 50-50 on it last week. I mean, maybe 60-40 in favor of Lipski. It was close. But I mean, with all that weight cutting, I mean, you got to go in the opposite direction when it was that close. So I'm going for sure on the underdog here, Cachoeira. And I'm trying to see where this is. Did they put this on? Yeah, they did. And I mean, the fact, I just don't understand why Lipski would still be a fairly substantial favorite, and actually might even be a bigger favorite now than she was last week when this whole weight cut fiasco is going on. Lipski's at minus 200 right now, people. Minus 200. Minus 200. She missed weight, wasn't medically cleared to fight less than a week ago, and has to cut weight again. That is insane. That is insane to me. And I'm not saying, like maybe she does come back. Maybe Lipski does come back 100% and does get the win. But I mean, you got to admit, it's way more likely that multiple weight cuts that went horribly wrong where you were not medically cleared, you'd have to imagine that that's going to be a huge problem in a fight that happens less than a week after that. Like that just to me is crazy. So I'm definitely putting money on the underdog here. Plus 162 for Cachoeira, who's going to come into this way healthier. Again, maybe it won't make a difference, but are you really willing to put that, to risk money on the fact that somebody who wasn't medically cleared to fight less than a week ago is going to come back and be able to win a tough fight against somebody who's really, really tough? I just don't see it. Especially somebody who comes out heavy constantly like Cachoeira. It's not a good mix. Not a good mix. So I think this is the clear choice to go the opposite direction. Cachoeira plus 162. I'm putting it in the article, and I'm definitely pumping that out because people seriously need to take a harder look at this fight now. Over under on this one, over under 2.5. If I am going Cachoeira by decision, but I gotta say, the more I think about it, it wouldn't really be that insane to at least even just put a couple bucks on the under, like I said, because that is not normal. Like that is a horrible weight cut. That is a horribly mismanaged weight cut. And when you see that happen, 90% of the time it goes horribly wrong in the fight. So to me, like you could actually even see a finish here by Cachoeira. So it's not even that crazy to think that's going to happen. And I might even change my prediction from a decision to a finish. I really might. But yeah, so I'm going, you could even put the money on the under 2.5 here just to see, just on that chance alone that the weight cut affected her enough that Cachoeira could get a finish here. And she's relentless with the offense. So it's definitely plausible. But yeah, I had to say that. I had to talk about that one specifically. And funny enough, another women's fight that is, I think, pretty clear. I don't think that one, the last one was really clear, but the one earlier with Nina Nunes and Calvillo, I think this is on the same level. I mean, Angela Hill, Lupi Godinez, who trains here in Vancouver. Amazing, by the way. Incredible fighter. This is a complete no-brainer. I mean, seriously, I just don't see any possible way that Angela Hill wins this. I mean, Godinez, well known for being absolutely relentless, nonstop cardio, huge power, huge grappling skill, unbelievable. Just really the future of the flyweight division. Or actually, no, not even actually both divisions, to be honest, but mostly a strawweight. That's right. Yeah, by for sure the future of the strawweight division. I mean, she should genuinely already be in the top 15. She's going to destroy Angela Hill here, get into that top 15 and get a pretty good matchup here because she is so talented. Minus 313 right now for Godinez, and worth every penny of that. Putting her in a parlay all night long for sure. Godinez, I'm still thinking decision because you got to think Hill, very, very tough here. I mean, if it was anybody else at that skill level, I would have said a finish for Godinez, but I mean, Hill does not get finished. I mean, I would be a little bit surprised if she got a finish. Actually, only a little bit surprised though, because it's still kind of a mismatch, to be honest, at this point. Like, I think Hill is kind of at that point. Like, I like her. I like her as a fighter. I like her as a person. She's always exciting, always brings it. But you're just not at that stage anymore. You're not in the top 15 skill-wise anymore. And Sad to say it, but it's just true. And I think probably this is going to be, it could honestly be her last fight. She's been losing pretty easily, to be honest, recently. So I think this could be it. And it's sad to say. Either that, or maybe we see her take like one more fight against somebody else just to, I don't know, maybe get a win on the way out. I don't know. But we're obviously still going to be seeing her on the panel, and I love her there. I love to see her talking and all that on the mic, on the panel, on the desk, whatever, wherever it is, bring her back. But I got to say, not so much for the fighting. I got to say, I think we're kind of at the end here, and this is going to be the real one where it's like, yikes, and we were already at that point a little bit a couple fights ago, but now it's going to be like, okay, yeah, you should probably stop fighting or fight people that are barely, just making their way in the UFC. That's kind of what she's actually, I would say she's at the Jim Miller kind of point where it's like, you're not going to be able to beat anybody that's top 15 or even close to that, but you can beat people that are going into the UFC. Anyway, clear parlay opportunity, -313. Over under -400 at over 2.5. I gotta say, honestly, with those kind of odds, you would probably want to take the under +280. I mean, I know how tough Hill is, but I mean, how good Godinez is too. So +280. I mean, I'm not going to break the bank on it. I'm not going to put $50 on it. But hey, $5, $10 on, like $10 on that +280. It's worth a shot. And again, you can make it up with a couple of these other fights too, because a lot of these other ones are, I think, definitely put down wrong in these sports books for sure. So yeah, I mean, put a few bucks on the under 2.5 here. Might not be that crazy. -400 is a little bit aggressive for that kind of thing when it's clearly the case that one person's going to win. Ode Osborne, Tyson Nam. That is the last one that I'm going to talk about. And to be honest, I think that should be, if not the featured prelim, it should be on the main card. I really think that. Same thing with Lipski and Cachoeira. I think those two fights, featured prelim, opening main card. Get that other one out of there. I don't even know why it's on there. People don't even, I don't even know who they are. They're not on the Contender Series. Who are these people, So it's like, why are they opening the main card? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They're not even huge names outside of the UFC. I just don't get it. So to me, Ode Osborne, Tyson Nam, that should end up in one of those spots. I mean, not only am I covering it for that reason, but I also just think it's an exciting fight. But again, Osborne, I said this last time. I mean, last time Osborne fought, he's so insanely good. It's crazy that he's not getting a top 15 shot, to be honest. His only loss recently, or I think even just in the UFC, was to Manel Kape, who caught him with a flying knee. And Manel Kape is one of the best strikers in the whole division. So, it's like, that's his only loss. Like, why are you punishing him by, I mean, you're not punishing him. You're giving him easy wins, but still, it's like, this guy is top 15 for sure, like easily. And you're giving him all these other guys. Like, it's crazy to me. I mean, yeah, Tyson Nam is good, but he's nowhere near as good as Osborne. And I think you should fairly easily, you should realize that at this point, how good Osborne is. And yeah, I think Osborne's going to get a finish again here. What was I going to say here about Tyson Nam? Because a lot of people don't necessarily know who he is at this point. Let's see what we got here. What was I going to say? Nam, I mean, he's in actually a pretty similar situation to Osborne, where he could actually be in the top 15. Lost his debut to Sergio Pettis. That's a rough debut. Then he lost to Schnell, and that's where I'm falling apart on him, because I don't think Schnell is that good. I mean, he's good, but he's not insanely good. And then Kai Kara France, so makes sense. But he did grabbed knockouts in his other 2 fights, but not over anybody really that impressive. Whereas Osborne, you know, like he's kind of destroying people that are actually really good. Yeah, so like I said, I thought he was going to get a top 15 shot after that last one. I said that last time, but he's got this one instead. Nam can be dangerous, but he does have a bad habit of getting hit a lot. Like he gets hit a lot. And normally he can take it because he's fighting, you know, these other basically cans. I mean, not cans, but you know, they're not power punchers. They're not people that are getting huge knockouts. And Osborne is. So to me, you know, Nam gets hit way too much. Osborne's going to land something amazing in the first round, get a finish. I mean, I think that's the pretty clear way this is going to go. He could last longer. You know, we could be looking at a second round here, but still, I'd have to imagine that Osborne is going to get that finish first or second round. I really do. So minus 250 for Osborne. Definitely going that on the parlay. Plus 200 for Nam. And then over under 2.5 right now. Which favors us, of course. And they are favoring the under 2.5 at minus 125. But still, minus 125. I mean, seriously, like look at what, if you haven't seen what Ode Osborne's been doing, just watch his last couple fights. I mean, he's got unbelievable power. And considering the fact that Nam gets hit so much, you know, and he was knocked out. Actually, I don't know. I can't remember if he was knocked out or not, but he lost to Schnell, Kaikar France, and Sergio Pettis. I want to say that 1 or 2 of those were knockouts. So to me, you know, like I'm going on the under on this one. I'm not putting a crazy amount of money, but I definitely think the pretty clear choice here is Osborne under 2.5 rounds. Yeah. And if you see a prop that says that first round KO, second round KO for Osborne, I'm putting money on that all day for sure. So that is it for me and the parlays. But yeah. Actually, no, that's it for me and my picks. I will go with the parlays now. It's getting a little warm up here and I'm losing it because I'm hungry and the caffeine is starting to bug me from the Frappuccino. That's the one problem, having caffeine on an empty stomach for me. Not necessarily that good. I start to lose it, start to lose focus, but I'm getting there. We're getting there and we're almost done. Parlays. So obviously staying away from Lipski Cachoeira. I always work through it the way I see it on Bet99 here. Osborne minus 250. That's a clear choice. I gotta say, Benitez minus 367, not justified at all. Do not under any circumstance put Benitez on your parlay. Not worth it, I gotta say, because honestly, I'm actually kind of going in the opposite direction. I really am. People are wildly underestimating Charlie Ontiveros here. And I'll tell you why. I didn't go into this, but I will say very quickly, I am putting Ontiveros on my picks for, underdogs and all that. Good lines here. Because Ontiveros was fighting at 170 against Kevin Holland. And he is wild with his punches. And if he lands, you're done. You are done if he lands. And Benitez was fighting at 145 before this fight. He was fighting usually at 145. So you tell me, are you going to go with somebody who was fighting at 145 that was finished by Onama at 145? Or are you going to go with somebody who was fighting at 170 pounds who regularly gets first round knockouts? Not in the UFC, but he got them outside of the UFC at, I believe, 170. And he's making his way down to 155 now. You tell me, who are you going to pick on that one? I'm going Ontiveros on that one, especially as an underdog. So I'll write it down, but I hope people hear it here too. Plus 275 for Ontiveros. That is bananas. That is crazy odds. I'm putting a substantial amount of money on that, I gotta say. And I think we're going to be cashing in pretty big there. But yeah, definitely not putting that on any parlays. Budai, I'm not entirely convinced either, so I'm not putting him on a parlay either. Not to the same level as Benitez and Ontiveros, I will say. Like, I don't know. I can't remember my pick on that one, which is why the fact that I can't even remember if I picked Budai or Brzezinski on that one, don't put money on that on a parlay. I can tell you that right now. Do not do it. Oh yeah, and then Godinez, clear choice for a parlay, minus 313. Quinlan, also one that was rescheduled last week, but the only reason it was rescheduled, and this is a crazy story, it was rescheduled because Quinlan was tested positive for performance enhancing drugs. He tested positive for steroids, but it's a kind of steroid that is illegal in Nevada, but legal in California where this fight is being held. And he is massive, and you can kind of tell. So, I mean, you know, it's like, there's no way. I really didn't. I mean, I was calling for a Quinlan first round knockout before, seeing how big he was and how good he is. I mean, and then also knowing that he does steroids now, and that's apparently legal in this state. I mean, parlay all day, minus 250 Quinlan on this all day. Bruno Silva, minus 300, easy parlay. Calvillo, easy pick, minus 175 parlay. Clark and plus 125, I'm even thinking maybe adding to a parlay. Jauregui at minus 200, that was that women's fight that might be opening up the main card. I think that's actually pretty fair. I thought she was pretty good. Maybe stay away from it, though, because you've got a lot of other good options here. Minus 300 Onama, I'm a little bit nervous on that one, I got to say. Minus 234, yes, for Vera, yes. So we've got Vera, we've got possibly Jauregui, possibly Onama, possibly even Clark, Calvillo, Silva, Quinlan, Godinez. Staying away from the next two. Osborne. That's it. So there's a lot of good parlay opportunities here, I gotta say. But yeah, that's it for me. I know we went way over this time again, as always, but you know, I actually kind of like this setup more because we're talking more about things that need to be talked about and things that you might not know if you're just watching the main cards of events. I'm not calling you a casual at that point, and you probably wouldn't be watching this if you were a casual, but you know, I do pay attention to it more than like the average person, and even most fanatics would pay attention to it. Like, I'm looking into things that most people wouldn't look into, and I hear things that other people don't necessarily pay attention to or know about. So I like bringing those facts and stories and all that into the streams, paying more attention to that instead of, you know, the prelims of the last card that most people don't really care about. So, you know, I mean, if we had a huge audience here, I would ask what people think. But personally, you know, I'm just going based on what I see and what I think and what I would want to watch and what I would want to listen to. And I find the other side things interesting. You know, it makes for a more interesting view, in my opinion. So I don't know, if you happen to hear this, leave a comment below or anything like that. Let me know what you think. Do you like this setup? Do you like me talking more about the side things, making it more interesting like that? Or do you want to hear more about, you know, my thoughts about, like, let's say like the prelims of the last fight and like the Contender Series fights? Do you want to hear more of that? Because I'm down for both, but I think it's probably more interesting for everybody if I, you know, do these more side stories and give more information about stuff like that. That's kind of more interesting. I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to hear this, but if you want to if you hear me about that, leave a comment below and let me know what you think. But that's it for me. If you want to watch the other sports, Area 51 always got you covered. Pew, pew, pew. I don't even know where I was going with that. But all my socials are below: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all down there. Check that out. That's where I post all my BLÜ bonuses, which I do for every single card. I might even do something for the Contender Series eventually. I was thinking about it. I'm not sure. I've just been so busy with other things, with other, especially research with like this kind of stuff, that I haven't really had the chance. So I haven't been doing that, but I could. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, Saturday, San Diego. Next week, we've got Contender Series week 4, of course. We've got San Diego to talk about. And then I think that's actually the pay-per-view that's next after that, isn't it? I think Utah with Usman and Edwards. I think that's after that. I could be wrong. I could be a week off. I'm not quite sure. But I think that's what's next. And then eventually you've got Paris. I think there's another Vegas one thrown in there. We'll see. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.